A quiet road cuts through a dense forest of towering redwoods, their shadows stretching endlessly across the ground as dusk settles in. The silence feels unnatural, like the woods themselves are holding their breath. A group of friends arrives, laughing and unaware, their car headlights slicing through the darkness. They're here for a weekend getaway, a break from routine, a chance to reconnect. But from the very first moment, something feels off. The air is colder than it should be. The trees seem too still, and the sense of being watched creeps in long before anyone dares to say it out loud. The group sets up camp near an abandoned cabin, brushing off the warnings they heard earlier in town. Locals spoke in hushed tones about disappearances, about screams echoing through the forest at night, about something that never lets its victims leave. But to them, it sounded like just another exaggerated legend meant to scare outsiders. They laugh it off, joking as they unpack supplies, light a fire, and settle in. The flames crackle, casting flickering shadows that dance across their faces, and for a moment, everything feels normal again. As night deepens, the forest begins to change. The sounds of nature fade, replaced by an eerie stillness that presses in from all sides. One of them notices movement between the trees, a quick flicker that disappears when looked at directly. Another hears footsteps circling just beyond the firelight. The tension builds slowly, almost imperceptibly, until laughter turns into uneasy glances. They try to ignore it, convincing themselves it's just their imagination. But the feeling refuses to go away. Inside the cabin, dust and decay tell stories of something long forgotten. Old furniture sits untouched, covered in grime, and the walls are marked with strange scratches that don't look like they were made by animals. One of them finds a journal hidden beneath a loose floorboard, its pages filled with frantic handwriting. It speaks of a presence in the woods, something that hunts at night, something that enjoys the fear of its victims before it strikes. The entries grow more desperate as they continue, ending abruptly mid-sentence. Back outside, the fire suddenly dies down, as if suffocated by an unseen force. The darkness rushes in, swallowing the clearing. Panic begins to set in as they scramble to relight it, but their hands shake and every sound feels amplified. A branch snaps in the distance, then another, and another, closer this time. Whatever is out there is no longer hiding. The first attack comes without warning. A scream pierces the silence, raw and filled with terror. The group turns just in time to see one of their friends dragged into the darkness, disappearing between the trees before anyone can react. Chaos erupts. They shout, calling out names, but there's no response. Only the echo of their own voices bouncing back at them. The reality of their situation hits hard. They're not alone, and they're not safe. They rush into the cabin, barricading the doors and windows. With whatever they can find, fear takes over as they try to make sense of what's happening. The journal suddenly feels less like a story and more like a warning they should have taken seriously. Outside, something moves, circling the cabin slowly, deliberately. Heavy footsteps crunch against leaves, stopping just long enough to remind them it's still there. Hours pass, or maybe minutes, it's impossible to tell. Time feels distorted under the weight of fear. One of them insists they need to leave, that staying here will only make things worse. Another argues it's safer inside. The tension between them grows, fueled by panic and desperation. But eventually, they realize they don't have a choice. Staying means waiting to be picked off one by one. They make a run for the car, moving together, trying not to look back. The forest feels alive now, closing in around them, every shadow hiding potential danger. Their footsteps echo too loudly, their breathing too heavy. Then, out of nowhere, it appears. A figure emerges from the darkness, its presence overwhelming and terrifying. It doesn't rush. It doesn't need to. It knows they can't escape. Another scream, another loss. The group scatters, instincts taking over as they run in different directions. The plan to stay together dissolves in seconds. Alone in the forest, each of them faces the same horrifying realization: they've become prey, in a place designed to trap them. The redwoods stretch endlessly in every direction, making it impossible to find a way out. One of them stumbles upon an old path, barely visible beneath layers of fallen leaves. It feels like a chance, a way to escape. They follow it, hope flickering in their chest, despite everything. But the deeper they go, the more it becomes clear that the path isn't leading them out. It's leading them somewhere else. Something deliberate, something planned. Back at the cabin, the remaining survivors try to regroup, but trust is starting to break. Fear turns into suspicion. They question each other, wondering if someone knows more than they're saying. The journal mentions something about the forest choosing its victims, about how it plays with them, feeds on their fear. The idea seems impossible, yet everything they've experienced points to something far beyond normal. The attacks continue, each one more brutal than the last. The figure moves with unnatural precision, always one step ahead, always watching. It doesn't just kill, it stalks, it waits, it builds terror before striking. The survivors are pushed to their limits, physically and mentally, as they try to outthink something that doesn't follow human logic. A final plan begins to take shape. They decide to fight back, to turn the tables and face whatever is hunting them. It's a desperate move, but desperation is all they have left. They gather whatever weapons they can find, broken pieces of furniture, tools from the cabin. Anything that might give them an edge. The fear is still there, but now it's mixed with determination. They set a trap, using the cabin as bait. The silence returns as they wait, every second stretching longer than the last. Then, just like before, the footsteps begin. Slow, heavy, deliberate. The figure approaches, stepping into the faint light with a presence that feels almost inhuman. This is it. There's no more running. The confrontation is brutal and chaotic. Every move is a struggle, every second a fight for survival. The figure doesn't go down easily. It's strength and resilience pushing them to their limits. But for the first time, it's not in control. The balance shifts, even if only slightly, giving them a chance they didn't have before. As dawn begins to break, the forest changes once again. The darkness retreats, replaced by a pale, uneasy light filtering through the trees. The figure disappears, as if it was never there, leaving behind only silence and destruction. The survivors are left standing, battered and shaken, trying to process what just happened. But the sense of relief doesn't last. The forest still feels wrong, still watching. And as they make their way out, they realize something chilling. The nightmare isn't over. The woods don't forget. The presence doesn't disappear. It waits. It always waits. The road back seems longer than before, the sunlight unable to fully chase away the dread that clings to them. They don't speak much, each lost in their own thoughts, replaying the horrors they've endured. What they experienced wasn't just an attack. It was something deeper, something tied to the very heart of the forest. And as the camera lingers on the towering redwoods one last time, a faint movement can be seen between the trees. A reminder that some places are not meant to be disturbed, and some evils never truly die.